Today on Sports Central, we'll be going over our next final prediction of this offseason, and it's going to be over the Atlanta Falcons. And this was a team last season that was 7-9. Ended up having a bit of a down season in comparison to how many expected them to be, but will the Falcons be able to be a playoff contender in 2020 is what we're going over here today. And we're also going to be going over the returning production, along with a full prediction and preview on every game on Atlanta's schedule going into the 2020 season. So that being said, let's look at your season trends from 2019. This team was a team that really started off slow last season. They were 1-7 between September and October. So obviously, they did not look like much of a playoff contender from the start. If you look at this team once they got to November, this was actually one of the better teams in the NFC, I would say. They were 6-2 between November and the postseason. So, if you think about it, it sounds crazy, but the Falcons especially, if you look at how much they improved over the season, and especially looking at November and December, between those 2 months, this team was 6-2 once again, and that's pretty high tier there. And I think the Falcons next season could easily be a team that could be a contender because of that. And if you look at some of the teams in the past that we've seen do pretty well in the regular season, that would be because of how they improved the season before, and the Falcons are going to be a pure example of that, I think. But as far as your key wins go from last season, they beat off the Eagles on September 15th, 24-20. That was their only win between the first couple of months, but it was still a good one as well. The Eagles were able to make it to the playoffs last season. They also beat off the Saints on November 10th, 26-9, and that's really what set this team off. That was quite a win there for the Falcons. The Saints weren't even close, and it was also in New Orleans. I'm not sure what happened there for the Saints, but the Falcons had a huge win there. They also beat off the Panthers 40-20, and they also beat the 49ers 29-22 on the road. So the Falcons were a big dark horse team last season. They had a couple of big upsets through the season, especially in the last couple of months of action. As far as the returning production goes, of course, you return your starting quarterback in Matt Ryan. And looking at him last season, he's always a very consistent quarterback. He really has not been injured very much at all over his career. And if you look at his yardage from last season, he put up 400-500 yards with 26 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. And he also put up a 66% completion rate. So all around, Matt Ryan is definitely a quarterback that I think is a bit underrated. He did have a pretty poor touchdown to interception ratio with 26-14, but still I think Matt Ryan is certainly a quarterback that often goes underrated, I would say, especially in the NFC. He's very consistent. He's put up a lot of great seasons, led this team to the Super Bowl a few seasons back. But, Matt Ryan definitely is a quarterback that I think has the potential to still lead a team to a Super Bowl, in my opinion. However, the running back situation, it's going to be kind of different. You got Todd Gurley now in there instead of Devontae Freeman. So it's going to be fun to see whether or not Todd Gurley will do a better job than Devontae Freeman. Obviously, Todd Gurley's been a Los Angeles Ram for quite a while now, and so I think Todd Gurley definitely is a running back that has had some really good years, but he's also had some pretty bad years. Especially over the past couple of seasons, he just has not lived up to the potential that he had back in, 2015 through 17. So I certainly think Todd Gurley is a running back that has had some great seasons, no doubt about that. It's just going to be really interesting to see how he does in Atlanta in comparison to Los Angeles. But as far as their top running back goes, Devontae Freeman, he's been a running back for this team for quite a while. But if you look at him, it's gonna be a weird adjustment going from Devontae Freeman to Todd Gurley. They've got a different style for sure, but they also return their running back too in Brian Hill, and so he is going to be a new player on this team going into next season. And obviously, he's not going to be a new player. He's just going to be a returning player. And obviously, Brian Hill last season was able to put up some decent yardage. He did not put up as much yardage as Devontae Freeman did, but he did manage to put up 400 yards with 3 touchdowns. And so, Brian Hill alongside Todd Gurley, I think the running back situation looks pretty good there, especially if Todd Gurley can, if he can stay healthy for sure. But as far as the receiving core looks, they return their top receiver in Julio Jones, and they also return their second receiver in Calvin Ridley. And of course, looking at them last season, Julio Jones put up nearly 1,400 yards with 6 touchdowns, and then Calvin Ridley put up 900 yards even with 7 touchdowns. So looking at them, they combined for nearly 2,200 yards, and so I think the receiving core looks really good for the Falcons as well. And tight end Austin Hooper is now with Cleveland. Of course, he had a great season in 2019. I believe this was his best season. He put up 800 yards with 6 touchdowns. And so, Austin Hooper definitely had a pretty good season in 2019 for the Falcons, but now he's going to be with Cleveland for 2020. Once again, they bring in running back Todd Gurley, linebacker Fowler, and then a new tight end in Hurst. So they're going to have a different tight end in there instead of Austin Hooper. And as far as the players that this team is losing, they're actually losing a lot more than they're bringing in. They're only really bringing in 3 main players that will be starting for next season. However, they are losing 5 key players for sure. They lose defensive back Trufant. They also lose linebacker Beasley, defensive end Claiborne. They also lose linebacker Campbell, and a center as well. So in the end for the Falcons, I mean, really all of those players, like especially linebacker Beasley, yeah, for sure. I mean, he was a good player, but yeah, it'll be fun to see how the Falcons are going to do next season, especially considering they possibly got an upgrade at the running back position, and the 2 running backs in Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, I mean, they both certainly have got the potential to lead a team to a Super Bowl as well. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting season for the Falcons coming up. I mean, this is a team that's got a lot of upside, I think, a lot of talent on here. And once again, Matt Ryan being a very consistent quarterback and a very healthy one as well, I feel pretty confident with the Falcons having him at quarterback. Brings up the question, chances of making the playoffs in 2020. I mean, the Falcons over the past few years, I mean, of course, they made it to the Super Bowl back a few years ago. But, I mean, if you look at this team in the past few seasons, they've not been as successful. I mean, in 2018 and 2019, they were 7-9, and they finished second in their division actually for both of those years. They lost in the divisional round in 2017, lost the Super Bowl in 2016. So, I mean, yeah, this team has had some bumpy years. I mean, they've had a couple of really good ones, but at the same time, I mean, the last couple of ones especially have been pretty down for Atlanta. So it'll be fun to see how they're going to do going into the 2020 season, which we're going over your schedule for next season next. You start off the season on September 13th against the Seahawks at home. You've got the Cowboys on the road on the 20th, Bears at home on the 27th, Packers on the road on the 5th. You've got the Panthers, Vikings, Lions, and Panthers after that. And believe it or not, it's kind of an odd schedule for the Falcons this year. I mean, they're alternating road and home games for the majority of the schedule. I mean, you got the Seahawks at home, then you've got a road trip to Dallas. So basically every other week you've got a road game. And so, I mean, that could either be a good thing or a bad thing. It'll be fun to see what happens there. But looking on the bright side, you do not have 2 road games in consecutive weeks until the last 2 weeks of the season, when you have to play the Chiefs and the Buccaneers both on the road in back-to-back weeks. But in the end, the schedule looks pretty tough, I'd say, for the Falcons. I mean, you got to play the Saints on the road, and you also have to play the Saints twice because, yeah, they're in the division, obviously. And you also have to play the Chiefs then on the 27th on the road. You got the Buccaneers, who could be good. I mean, the Packers, you got them on the road, Cowboys on the road, Seahawks at home. So, I mean, overall, I mean, this is going to be a tough schedule, I think, for the Falcons. And the schedule is really the only thing that's in the way from Atlanta going to another playoff. But as far as the first half of your schedule looks, I think you end up going 5-3, which really is very good. I mean, you do have a couple of tough games in the first half of your schedule, but overall, I mean, I do have you beating off the Seahawks. That's going to be a big win at home. You're also going to lose to the Cowboys on the 20th, and I kind of went back and forth on that one, but I think the Cowboys get a win there. You're going to beat off the Bears on the 27th. You're going to lose to Packers in Green Bay, and then you got the Panthers on the 11th at home. That's going to be a win. You're going to lose to the Vikings in Minnesota on the 18th. Then you'll finally be able to win a couple of games in a row. You'll beat off the Lions and the Panthers in back-to-back weeks. So you're going to be 5-3 in the first half of your schedule. As far as the second half of your schedule goes, you're going to lose to the Broncos and the Saints between November 8th and the 22nd. And both of those, I mean, they're going to be tough games for sure. But the Broncos, I mean, yeah, don't sleep on that team for next season. The Broncos could easily, I think, be a dark horse contender in the AFC. So you're going to take a loss there. You're also going to lose to the Saints on the road, but you're going to beat up the Raiders and the Saints at home on the 6th. So you got to play the Saints twice within 3 weeks, and you'll beat off the Saints the second time when you have them in Atlanta. But then you're going to lose to the Chargers on the 13th of December. And the reason why I've got you taking a loss to the Chargers there is because you're coming off of 2 pretty tough games. I mean, the Raiders could be a good team. The Saints are obviously going to be a good team. And they got to travel all the way across the country to play the Chargers, which will likely be a short week. So that's going to be a tough game there. I think they do take a loss, but they will beat off the Buccaneers the first time once they come back. And then they'll take losses to the Chiefs and the Buccaneers to finish off the season. So record prediction is going to be 8-8 for next season. I got you going at 500 even. So I think the Falcons next season definitely will be a semi-improved team. I definitely think if they had an easier schedule, this could easily be a 9-7 to a 10-6 team almost. I mean, yeah, this is a team that should be in the running for the playoffs for the majority of the season until the last 4 weeks. I mean, if you look at those last 4 weeks, I've got you going 1-3. So obviously, I mean, you're looking at a 7-5 record going into your December 13th matchup at the Chargers. So that's definitely that makes it look like the Falcons could easily make it to the playoffs. But I mean, in the end, I do think you do take a couple losses down the stretch in December, which do prevent that from happening. But some of your prediction stats are going to be 7-1 at home, 1-7 on the road. So you will not be a very good road team this season. You're going to be 4-2 in the NFC South, and then 7-5 in the conference. Anyway, that about wraps up our final prediction on the Falcons. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this team. If you enjoyed this preview, be sure to slap a like on it, subscribe as well. Really helps out the channel, and really appreciate that. But as always, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central, and I'll catch you all in the next one.